All right, I'm going to look at the Thursday and Friday from this week, what I ended up taking, what went right, what went wrong, and what I would have done differently. All right, so starting off in Thursday's session, what did we have here? All right, I will show you the trade I took and then explain kind of what happened to make me want to take it and if I would have done anything a little bit differently here. So, this was the long that I ended up taking. Um, and I won this trade. Was targeting this 30,402 right here. Let's see what was going on the hourly to kind of inform this play. Let's find it. All right, so we had swept and then reswept this big hour and 4 hour gap that I had been targeting, and we also had an unfilled hourly above. We had actually wicked into it one time, but I thought we would, maybe fill the 50% level. So I know this was probably a protected high. However, I thought it was worth targeting on the lower time frame price action. So I actually also took this trade earlier for break even. Um, just wanted to show you that very similar logic, V shape right out of the hourly. Pre-market though, which was interesting. Probably the reason why it didn't play out so cleanly. But, oh, I didn't mean to move this, but you get the idea. So at this first 3 minute gap, I actually took the trade as well. Um, Same logic, obviously, but I combine these two gaps and set stops, I think, here. But this one, I went break even here at this first internal high, and we got break even there because obviously the entry was here. And then I re entered when we broke the higher gap on the 5 minute, and I targeted kind of the last high that we had made in this untapped hourly that I wanted to get to the 50% level of. We hit it, and at that point, my account was at like 50,350. So that was a good Thursday. I like the play. There was probably a better way to take it from the bottom, maybe. I don't know. But I kind of like the setup. It was the key level that I was targeting delivering out of, and I'll usually take that. I will say though, this high was probably protected, and I maybe should not have targeted it. Something to consider going forward, but it worked out this time. Okay, and now for Friday, which I lost two full units, which is really unfortunate. And the first play was we swept these um, Asia lows and the London lows, right? If we zoom out, we can see where are we? Let's go to the 30 minute. We can see that it was this. We were still holding this 4 hour gap, by the way, which is my rationale for it. And we created at 8:30 this data high. There was some discussion about whether this was a quote protected data high. I thought it was still a great target, and I took it on. Actually, if you really want to get down into it, I entered it early. So we didn't close that 3 minute, but I liked the kind of the signature and price. It looked pretty V-shaped to me, and I thought that was, pretty negligible whether we closed above or not, and I entered it. So, and I don't think that's the reason for the loss by any means. I could have entered up here and actually gotten hurt even more, but I'm going to take this. This is a play that I think the statistics back up. V shape to the data high, and we were actually delivering out of 4 hours still. We were holding it. So I'm going to support that play. Now, here is, I didn't mark this on the chart, but this was the controversial play of the day. Was this 1 minute, which you would have entered here, and or on the 2 minute, I think there was an entry. If you entered this to the 9:30 wick, you know, and predicted that, oh, we're coming out of the 3 minute up here. There maybe have been a 5 minute, but I know that we were delivering off for a 3 minute. 9:30 Judas swing, whatever you want to say. It printed. Let's look at that. Obviously, this in hindsight was like a fucking 40-1, but um, I didn't like this play, and I'm happy I stayed away from it, even though it worked, because We had the data high above. That's my strategy. We also had these equal highs. So I thought that we would go back up before we ultimately ran down. My long term kind of dream scenario for Friday would have been we come back, we go back above these London highs or highs made right after London. We refill this big hourly bearish gap, and then we kind of manipulate, distribute down, and then we have a move like this. I thought we were going to get a move like this, but after we went back to the upside, took out all this liquidity that was formed, didn't happen. Anyways, my second loss of the day. Once we ran, once we came down, made this big, I believe like a 15-minute off open, right? Yeah, we have this 15-minute consecutive 15 minutes. We we stalled before these two lows, which I thought was a good sign. Refilled the 15, and this was the continuation play that I took. It was this 3-minute play, I believe. Yeah. So this is the gap right here. You enter at the close, and I was actually not even going to go break even here to the bottom, but we formed these equal lows, unfortunately. Went back up, I was stopped out, and then we kind of ran the rest of the day. And the reason that not only were those lows good, that was not the only reason I wanted to target this. It was also the new week opening gap, which I remember for a fact was like right here. We weren't that far away from it. Like that was going to be the ultimate target. I would have scaled at the low, maybe 50%, and then I would have held some runners down to here, and it almost played out. We went back up one time, and then we finally got the dump that we were looking for. But I actually defend that play. I know that we already dumped a bunch of points off of open, and maybe that caused the bad price here. But rest of the day price didn't seem to look that bad. So I'll defend both of those plays. I think they had their respective rationales that I respect. And yeah, I don't really mind what I did there. Unfortunate that it didn't work out, but you know, we tried, and yeah, maybe some things to learn, but I kind of like the thought process even going into two losses, which that is something that has, kind of been hard for me in the past. It's the stomach, when you lost, what did I do wrong? Always over analyzing, what happened here? Would I have done it again? And I think in both cases, yeah, I would have done it again. I thought that new week opening gap was a strong draw for the short once we dumped off open. Mind you, once we dumped off open and we were sufficiently far away from all of this liquidity up here, I think it was good. And for this long, it's an obvious data high and a very quick recovery out of an hourly and 4 hour gap. I'm taking that. So, now I'm at 49.7 something on the account, but I easily think that could have been a 2-win day. So I'm not really, stressing about either of those. And yeah, let me know what you think.